I want to speak to you as a cohort leader about one of the elements that honestly is the most difficult for me as I lead a cohort through the process. And that is for me as a retreat leader and spiritual guide to the process is creating and maintaining the appropriate amount of detachment in the process. And that's a really challenging thing. And what I mean by detachment, I mean that as I'm guiding people through, I'm engaged in who they are, I'm loving them deeply, I'm not withholding myself emotionally or spiritually, but I'm not allowing the group itself to determine whether I'm happy or sad. And I'm not allowing the group itself to tell me if I'm successful or unsuccessful. Because one of the challenges of every spiritual transformation experience is that the people experiencing the transformation enter the process with at least a little bit of resistance. Transformation requires that we overcome things that are in our life that honestly we sometimes become accustomed to and we actually like them. Even if they're sins that we're not proud of, they become part of our life. And while we may want them out of our life, there is resistance. There's spiritual resistance, there's emotional resistance, there's just resistance to change in general. And now everyone has a different level of resistance. Some people come in with great resistance. What do you mean you think my life needs to transform? Or what do you mean my understanding of myself and the Lord needs to grow? I thought I had my theology down pat. So everyone comes in with different resistance, but everyone comes in with some resistance. And that resistance manifests itself in a formation group in lots of different ways. Usually right at the beginning of the first cohort experience and the cohort retreat, that resistance gets experienced right off the bat, whether it's lots of questions about what the experiences means, asking for lots of definition about the words I'm using, asking about where things come from and what's going to be expected of them down the road. And all of those things are okay. No one's being bad or wrong or unopen to you. They're just experiencing the resistance or challenge of entering a process that feels new or different, and for some, deeply scary. So one of the challenges is for us as cohort leaders is learning how to hold the resistance, to be detached from the resistance and take it not personally. I have to acknowledge that it's there, but not choose not to let it get under my skin or determine whether I'm doing a good job or a bad job in the middle, and not allow it to make me derail the process along the way. One of the hardest cohorts I had to lead was a group of Fuller faculty who are a bunch of amazingly brilliant, lovely, dear-hearted men and women. But their resistance as a group of academics, all with PhDs in different theological and psychological fields, all people who've taught spiritual theology, all people who've taught the life of transformation, every word I use, they asked me to define it. And part of it was because they were dealing with their own questions. Is this person going to use theological frames I'm familiar with? Or are they frames that I agree with? Are they frames that I don't agree with? And those are all fair questions for people entering into process and asking, what are you expecting of me? And if you expect me to grow and transform and become a new person in the form of Christ, are you using language that I'm agreeing with? Not everyone comes in with those kinds of questions like a faculty person, but everyone comes in with a frame of question, and sometimes it manifests itself in the frame of resistance. This wasn't what I expected, or that's not how my pastor talks about it, or this language is new to me, or I'm not sure I like these people, or this bathroom isn't what I expected. It comes out in lots of different ways. So as a cohort leader, one of the things I will be praying with you about is how you can hold the resistance that people bring, not take it personally, and keep moving forward. At some point in the first retreat, you're going to have to trust the process and keep moving. Almost every person who's been a cohort leader has been able to identify that moment that they at one point thought, oh, this is going great, the people are with me, and then at one moment, someone is not with me or the group isn't with me, and you have to trust the process and keep moving and recognize that people are needing to work through their resistance and needing to move forward. And you have to trust that the Lord knows about it and He can help them through the process, and not adjust or shift things radically simply because people are moving through that natural, normal process of resistance that happens to all of us in some ways. So work on yourself in the process. Be prepared emotionally and spiritually. Come in rested. Make sure that you're not entering into the cohort experience busy, tied up, or going from one event right into the next. We strongly encourage you to have space and time, at least 6 or 7 hours before the first retreat happens, to just relax and be in yourself and be aware of what's happening. Pray for the people, be with your mentors, to do good self-care so that you can be present to people and not take their natural, normal questions, their natural, normal resistance personally. It's the hardest thing that I experience every single time. So we wanted you to be a little bit aware of it, that you need to guide yourself and pray that the Spirit can give you strength and courage and faith through the process. We'll be there to help and coach you and guide you through it, but we want you to be aware of it and be prepared for what God might invite you to have to endure through the process. I'm always better for it, and I'm always better for the resistance of my friends because I learn from them, and I learn about myself too, and I learn how to trust Christ through the process.